There's one question I hear over and over from my older patients. I eat healthy, exercise regularly, take my medication on time. So why is my blood pressure still high in the morning? And it's not just from one person. It comes from hundreds of faces. Grandparents, parents, people who've done almost everything right. Yet the numbers on the monitor refuse to cooperate. I still remember one of them clearly, Mr. Henry, 72 years old. He was a disciplined man. Every morning he got up at 6 a.m., made a light cup of coffee, and sat down to read the paper. Then he'd take a walk around his garden, have a light breakfast with his wife, and occasionally tend to his potted plants. Blood pressure meds, taken on time. Diet, low salt, no fried foods, no smoking, no alcohol. But every morning, when he checked his blood pressure, the numbers were still a bit too high. Not dangerously high, but enough to worry him. Even though he didn't say it out loud, I could sense a quiet frustration that maybe all his efforts weren't paying off. One day during an appointment, I stayed with him a little longer, not to change his medication, but to ask something simple. How does your morning usually begin? We talked about early morning light, the sound of birds, and the habit of checking his phone before taking a deep breath. I didn't suggest anything complicated. I just asked him to try adding one tiny habit to his morning. Something science has shown can help naturally balance blood pressure. And strangely enough, 2 weeks later, his numbers began to shift, not because of a new pill, not because of a new diet, just a small habit, done at the right time, in the right way. Today, I'd like to share that with you, because sometimes the problem isn't one big mistake, it's the little things, the ones we keep repeating or completely overlook every single morning. Linda, 68, is someone who takes great care of her health. She lives with her daughter and 2 young grandchildren in a small house in the suburbs. Every morning, she wakes up early, usually around 6 a.m., but instead of stepping outside, she stays indoors, keeping the curtains closed to let the kids sleep peacefully, quietly preparing breakfast, taking her meds, and tidying up. One day, she checked her blood pressure as usual, and the numbers were still a bit high. Despite her careful diet, low salt intake, and gentle yoga every afternoon, the results weren't what she hoped, and slowly she began to feel that something was off, but couldn't tell what needed to change. When she came to see me, we reviewed her entire routine. Everything seemed fine until I asked, "Do you go outside in the morning?" She smiled gently. "I stay inside where it's warm. I don't like the chilly air." But that was the missing piece. Morning light isn't just for lighting the way. It's the body's natural clock, our internal cue that a new day has begun. When morning sunlight touches the skin and eyes, it signals the brain. It's time to wake up. This triggers the production of serotonin, a chemical that helps regulate mood and blood pressure. It also helps balance cortisol, the hormone that directly affects morning BP levels. So sometimes all it takes is opening the curtains, stepping outside for 10 minutes between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m., or simply sitting near a window where the morning light comes in. You don't need to sunbathe like it's the beach. Just let natural light touch your body. And it may be enough to reset your inner blood pressure clock. A single ray of morning sunlight might be the light that guides your heart to stay calm all day long. Our next story is about Mr. George, 74 years old, a man who's always started his day with the aroma of coffee. For over 40 years of working life, mornings meant one thing: a hot cup of coffee enjoyed in the early cool air when the world was still quiet. After retirement, that habit remained unchanged. Wake up, wash up, then sit on the balcony with a warm cup in hand, stomach still completely empty. At first, it was just a light-headed feeling after drinking, but gradually, some mornings brought a racing heartbeat. One time, his blood pressure spiked to 150. It didn't last long, but it was enough to make him uneasy. He started questioning everything. Are my medications still working? Is something silently going wrong? When I asked, "Do you eat anything before your coffee?" he shook his head. "No, I've been doing it this way for years." And that was the issue. Coffee isn't the enemy, but when your stomach is empty and unlined, caffeine enters the system like a sudden jolt. It stimulates the nervous system, increases heart rate, and in some people, it can cause a temporary rise in blood pressure. The solution isn't giving up coffee altogether. It's about adjusting the order. Just a small bite before your cup, a slice of toast, a banana, or a spoonful of oats, is enough to activate the stomach and soften caffeine's impact. For more sensitive individuals, switching to decaf or a gentle herbal tea in the morning can also help. Coffee isn't wrong. It only becomes a problem when we forget that mornings in our later years need a gentler beginning. One case I'll never forget is Martha, 66 years old, a former elementary school teacher. She had a calm, thoughtful presence, always carried a small notebook where she tracked everything about her health: medication times, blood pressure readings, foods to eat, even folk remedies she'd collected from her former students. But recently, she started feeling off. Even with early bedtimes, she still woke up tired. Some mornings, just standing up from bed made her feel dizzy or faint. Her blood pressure readings began to fluctuate, with no clear pattern. We reviewed everything. Her diet? Good. Medication? Taken properly. Exercise? Consistent. Then I asked, "Do you drink water right after waking up?" She paused for a moment, then said, "Usually. I wait until after breakfast." It sounded like a small thing, but it was actually a major clue. After 7 to 8 hours of sleep, the body naturally loses fluid. It's not always noticeable as thirst, but the blood vessels have already started to dry out slightly. The blood becomes thicker, circulation slows down, and that's when morning blood pressure can creep upward. All it takes is 1 glass of warm water, around 200 to 300 milliliters, right after waking up. No lemon, no honey needed, just clean, warm water. Enough to awaken your circulation and soften the flow within your body. Older adults should avoid cold water in the morning. It can cause sudden vessel constriction, and skip sugary fruit juices on an empty stomach. They may spike blood sugar and pressure. A simple cup of warm water can be one of the most caring things we do for our heart at dawn. Some things don't cost money, don't need training. They just need to be remembered and begun with a gentle sip as the morning light begins to rise. Mr. Mike, 70 years old, is a very disciplined and cautious man. After a bout with high blood pressure 2 years ago, he decided to buy a home blood pressure monitor. Every morning, just 5 minutes after opening his eyes, he would sit up in bed, check his blood pressure right there on the spot, and carefully record it in a dedicated notebook. For him, it was his way of staying in control each day. But instead of feeling more at ease, he slowly began living with a quiet sense of worry. Some mornings, his blood pressure spiked unexpectedly. Even though he didn't eat salty foods, wasn't stressed, and slept well. The earlier he measured, the higher the reading. The higher the number, the more uneasy he felt. During one visit, he handed me the notebook filled with numbers, and I could see the quiet exhaustion behind every recorded line. So I asked just one simple question. When do you usually take your readings? Right after I wake up, for accuracy, he replied. I smiled gently. That right after waking up was actually the very reason the numbers were misleading. When we first wake up, the body is still transitioning from rest to activity. The nervous system isn't fully balanced, and hormones like cortisol, which naturally spike in the morning, are still running high. At that time, a slight increase in blood pressure is completely normal, and not something to be alarmed about. So when is the best time to measure? Wait at least 30 to 45 minutes after waking up. Empty your bladder. Sit quietly for 5 minutes. No talking, no stress. Sit upright, feet flat on the ground, arm resting at heart level. Taking your reading too early doesn't make you more cautious. Taking it at the right time. That's how you truly understand your body. A rushed reading can leave you feeling anxious all day, but a well-timed reading can bring peace of mind and a calmer start to your morning. Mr. Frank, 75 years old, is a quiet, introspective man. After retiring, he spent most of his time at home, caring for plants and reading books with his wife. Each morning, he would wake up around 5:30 a.m., but wouldn't get out of bed right away. He'd lie still for another 30-40 minutes, waiting for the light to filter through the curtains, listening to the birds outside the window. To him, it was a peaceful form of morning meditation, a way to gently ease into the day. But recently, he began feeling heavier each morning. His body felt sluggish, slow to rise. Some mornings, it felt like a weight was pressing on him. Not quite fatigue, but not quite laziness either. And his blood pressure? Still high in the morning, even though nothing unusual had happened the day before. During our conversation, he told me, "Maybe I'm just getting old. I do exercise, but I wait until after breakfast." I gently shared a thought with him. Your body is like a flowing river. If it stays still for too long, the current slows down. After a long night's rest, circulation naturally slows. Muscles stiffen. Blood flow becomes sluggish. If we don't gently restart that circulation with light movement, blood pressure can spike or fluctuate when we finally begin moving. No need for jogging. No complicated routines, just a few simple movements. Stretch your arms, roll your wrists and ankles, walk around the house for 5 to 10 minutes. For those who feel dizzy when standing up, you can start right from bed. Rub your hands and feet, gently bend your knees. Take a few deep, slow breaths. It's not just about warming up the body. It's about awakening your blood vessels, sending a gentle message that says, "A new day has begun. Let's flow. Let's rise." Flexibility in our older years doesn't come from intense workouts. It begins with the kindest movements, early in the morning, when the world is still soft and quiet. Susan, 67 years old, has been living alone since her husband passed away a few years ago. She leads a quiet, minimalist life, neat, reserved, soft-spoken, and takes great care to maintain her figure. Partly out of habit and partly out of fear that eating too much will lead to illness, her breakfast was often very modest, a few slices of fruit, a cup of tea, or sometimes just a multivitamin, and nothing more. She usually ate around 9 a.m., after watering the plants, cleaning the house, and running errands. Some mornings she felt a slight shakiness in her body, a faster heartbeat, and a bump in her blood pressure. She simply chalked it up to aging. But during her regular checkups, we started to notice a pattern. Her morning blood pressure readings were significantly higher than in the afternoon. While the numbers weren't dangerously high, the inconsistency was concerning. I asked her gently, "When do you usually have breakfast?" She gave a small smile. "I don't rush. I'm by myself. Eating early just doesn't feel joyful." That sentence said a lot. Sometimes it's not just a dietary mistake. It's a reflection of quiet loneliness built into our habits. After a long night's rest, the body needs fuel to start up. Without it, the body compensates by releasing stress hormones, like cortisol, to keep organs running. That response can raise blood pressure, quicken the heart, and leave you feeling tired without knowing why. The solution? Eat within 1 hour of waking up, even if you're eating alone. Include light protein, a boiled egg, a slice of whole grain toast, a few slices of avocado, or a small bowl of warm oats. Avoid just eating fruit alone or taking medications on an empty stomach. A nourishing breakfast not only supports your body, it sends a message: I value myself. Starting from the very first hour of the day. And when you begin your morning with that kind of self-respect, your blood pressure and your emotions may feel more balanced than you realize. Teresa, 73 years old, lives with her son and 2 young grandchildren. She's always cared deeply about current events and the news. Every morning, when her alarm rang at 6 a.m., the very first thing she did was reach for the remote and turn on the TV. No breakfast, no open curtains, no deep breath, just straight to the international news, eager to find out. What's wrong with the world today? She'd listen to war reports while scrolling through family messages, stories of inflation, violence, disease, all delivered in bold red headlines. It hit her like a storm before she was even fully awake. At first, Teresa didn't realize how it was affecting her, but over time, she began waking up with a fast-beating heart. Some mornings, her palms were cold and sweaty, even before she ate. Her blood pressure readings were higher than usual. She blamed it on poor sleep at first. She cut back on caffeine. She reduced salt. But nothing helped. During a checkup, we talked about her mornings, and I asked a question that seemed unrelated. Do you begin your day with anything that brings you peace? She paused for a long time, then softly said, I don't think so. Stress doesn't always come from work. Sometimes it begins with how we choose to start the day. The aging brain is more sensitive to stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol when we take in too much negative information too early, before we've had time to process or filter it. The body responds, vessels tighten, heart rate increases, blood pressure rises, and we don't even notice it. I suggested a gentle change. No TV in the first 30 minutes of the day. Instead, sit in natural light. listen to soft music, or write down one small thing you're grateful for. It doesn't need to be poetic, just honest. Teresa tried it for 2 weeks, and at her next visit, she came in with a soft smile. I haven't seen my blood pressure this low in years. Not because she stopped watching the news, but because she chose the right time to receive the world, and the right way to take care of herself. Each morning, high blood pressure doesn't arrive like a sudden storm. It builds silently, from the smallest things we repeat each morning, without even realizing. A forgotten glass of water, a cup of coffee too early, lingering too long in bed, a news report that weighs down your heart. We don't need to wait for illness to show itself before making a change. We just need to begin with one small, right choice each morning, done consistently, gently, and with care. For Mr. Henry, it started with stepping outside 10 minutes earlier. For Ms. Linda, it was simply opening the curtains sooner. For Mr. George, it meant eating before his morning coffee. These little acts, they're the keys to blood pressure stability. Not just for one day, but for the long run. And what about you? Are you making one of these 7 morning mistakes? Or perhaps you've quietly been doing things right all along, without even noticing it. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Which habit do you see yourself in? Which one will you try first? Because your story could be the encouragement someone else needs. If this video helped you, pass it on to someone you love, a friend, a parent, a neighbor. A small act of sharing could be the reason someone chooses a healthier path. And please remember, this video is for educational purposes only. If you're experiencing unusual symptoms, dizziness, headaches, or unstable blood pressure, seek in-person care from a healthcare provider. Health doesn't come from one single checkup. It comes from every morning we wake up, choose a better habit, and tell our body, today I'm going to treat myself with kindness.